Thank you so much. I know it's the end of the day and everybody's tired and probably want to go home or I don't know, go outside, have a drink. But this will be hopefully fun, and I will only take around 40 minutes of your time. So you probably heard a lot about these kind of predictions. Hold on, give me 1 second. Okay, so I'm going to be reading from this screen as well. So I'll come a bit close to you. So you've probably seen predictions like AI is going to be smarter than humans by so-called the godfathers of AI, such as Max Tegmark, or that human level or general artificial intelligence is very close or right here by, again, people like Yoshua Bengio, one of the, again, so-called godfathers of AI research. And similar predictions that claim that AI, artificial general intelligence is either here or that it's very close. Usually it's always three years away. And again, by Geoffrey Hinton. And recently, there has also been claims that large generative systems such as ChatGPT demonstrate early signs of sparks of AGI. So these kind of approaches treat AI as fully agentic. They kind of remove a lot of the background work and labor that goes into AI, and they really focus on the specific, say, for example, neural network or architecture, and they have a very narrow understanding of AI. And again, even though we hear claims that AGI is coming, AI systems understand or they are becoming sentient or conscious, these are always predictions that are going to happen very soon, and they are actually never here. They actually we don't actually see, we don't actually, experience such AI systems that live up to these kind of claims. And when people have this kind of understanding and this kind of definition of AI, very narrow, seemingly autonomous, seemingly fully independent from humans, which is really not true when you look at the details, when then the ethical considerations or a lot of the worry then becomes very one-sided and it will play very soon. So this is a collection of researchers really basically telling us that AI is going to be completely out of control from
I think it gets...
Apologies for the technical glitch. Basically, they are all saying that we are all going to die.
Smarter than us. I think we're not ready. I think we don't know what we're doing. And I think we're all going to die.
The default is just disaster. And I think most likely just human extinction.
We're just going to die. That's my fairly confident prediction.
Literally human extinction.
Okay.
Of course.
Okay. But the reality is, as you can see, these systems are systems that really, find pattern from massive amounts of training data, and they are very good at predicting next tokens or next words. And as you can see in, images generated using prompts such as catfish, you can see that they really are nowhere close to understanding, nowhere close to human-level AI, nowhere close to consciousness. But rather what we get through careful prompt is the assurance that these systems really are a way to kind of regurgitate underlying training data and give us, approximation of the kind of concepts that we query them from. Here is another example. Again, to give you that these generative systems really approximate and find the best correlation for a certain word. In this case, what we are seeing here is an image generated using the prompt, a watercolor painting of Mother Teresa fighting against poverty. As you can see, it's the best rendition of Mother Teresa, the best rendition of fighting, and the best rendition of poverty. And so there are several excellent work that has come interrogating and rigorously questioning these claims around, AI becoming fully autonomous and completely getting out of control of the hands of human and so on. One of the best readings is by Timnit Gebru and Torres. They underline the fact that a lot of these claims around existential risk doesn't follow any engineering principles, or it doesn't have any scientific background. It's not a hypothesis that you can actually test. Also, very recently, a couple of researchers, Sayash Kapoor and Arvind Narayanan, have done a thorough analysis of the probability of existential risks happening in the future. And in summary, their conclusion is that using deductive methods, there is absolutely no risk. Using inductive methods, there is no reference. And even using subjective forecasting, there is zero likelihood of that happening. So despite empirical work showing that a lot of what we hear around AI is extremely over-exaggerated, we are still in the midst of an AI hype. We see claims to integrate AI and to deploy AI, as you can see here, to diagnose illness, to interpret medical imaging. Generally, the medical space is one of the areas where there is a massive push to deploy and to integrate AI systems into society. Recently, also, OpenAI has partnered and with a startup where they are really pushing for the use of generative systems in the healthcare space. We even hear claims around how we can diagnose, for example, mental illnesses or mental issues such as depression and so on from voice data, from image data, video data, and so on. And as we go down that route, it's extremely dark and dangerous. Another area where there is so much enthusiasm and where there is so much investment is in the area of education. Google, over the past year, is really aggressively pushing to integrate generative AI into schools, into the teaching learning space. And we've also seen just a few weeks ago that a new startup called Sankra AI has come out and declared that they have built, excuse me for a second. My slides are live from Canva, so if the internet is not good, we have this problem. Okay. So Sankra has claimed that humans don't need to do science anymore. We have the AI scientists that can come up with a hypothesis, that can generate data, that can run experiments, and that can do the writing, the interpretation, the analysis, basically the entire science from the entire pipeline from beginning to the end. It's not new. 2 years ago, actually, Facebook's model Galactica was supposed to do exactly that. It was supposed to help the scientific process, scientific writing. Unfortunately, the model was retracted just 3 days ago, and I'll explain why in a bit. So it's not only medicine and education where we are seeing massive push for AI. Everywhere you look, from managing refugees to in the areas such as using generative systems in legal space, also in law enforcement, These are very common claims we hear around AI. Again, using AI to leapfrog, the African continent, for example, out of poverty, and so on. So we also hear, state heads and government representatives really embracing AI, but mostly really pushing AI without any critical scrutiny. So we all want AI to, to help our finance systems. We want it to help various issues that society has been experiencing. But the reality is that there is a massive gap between the current AI systems we have and what we want the AI systems to do. So I'll go through a few actual audits that have done some rigorous examination of specific models to see if these systems, in fact, do the job that they are supposed to do. For example, very recently, we've seen that the medical space is one of the areas where we hear most around the use of AI to make medical diagnosis and the health care space in general efficient. As you can see from this audit that came out recently, they looked at four AI systems, four large generative systems that are specifically used in medical diagnosis. And as you can see here, the short summary is that these models performed basically random than worse. And as you can see, the kind of errors they were making were even finding positions of various internal body organs. They were misdiagnosing or missing diagnosis itself. The details are here. And in education, again, despite massive claims around education, we are seeing actual audits that are examining these systems, again, testing whether they stand up to scrutiny. In a recent study, in a Turkish school, they studied the use of ChatGPT to help students in doing practical maths. And what they found was that some of the group of students, they had generative systems assisting them doing their practical maths. The other ones didn't. Right after the initial exam, the students that had generative AI assisting them did way better. They did 48% better than those that didn't. But later on, when they did the actual test without any generative AI assistance, those that had ChatGPT helping them initially did way worse. They did about 17% worse than those that didn't have ChatGPT to begin with. So as you can see, the hype and the actual models, their performance do not align. Also in the US, where they are integrating generative systems in the education system way ahead of everybody, we are hearing the disastrous impacts of these AI systems failing. For example, recently, one of the schools in Los Angeles had contracted with a startup called All Hire, but the system wasn't standing up to scrutiny. It wasn't performing. It wasn't helping students as the initial claims goes. As a result, the school lost money, and the AI system had to be retracted and scrapped. And very recently, this came out, I think, last week, where they tested two of the latest models from ChatGPT, GPT-4o1 and GPT-4o. They tested these models on multiplication tasks. And as you can see here, the models, especially the O-mini, does it does okay, just up to 9 times 9, and after that, it makes lots of errors. And GPT-4o performs even worse than that. So even in simple multiplication tasks, again, the claims we are hearing and the actual performance of these models doesn't really add up. It doesn't match up. Coming back to Galactica, Facebook's model that was released about 2 years ago, again, just like a lot of AI systems, these systems are presented with grandeur claims. Here is the paper that was released with the model itself. They claim things such as, the training corpus contains humanities scientific knowledge. However, the model was producing scientific papers with prompts such as, the health benefits of eating crushed glass, and it would give you an entire scientific paper with proper citations and with breakdowns of how much portions of crushed glass you should eat per day. So this is one of the reasons why the model was retracted. So it's not the hallucinatory or false information that these models give you. It's also what's being omitted. So things, ideas or concepts around, AIDS, racism, queer theory, and critical race theory, the model just simply refused to produce answers for prompts around these issues. So this does also have a consequence. So another audit I want to briefly discuss is, as I said, the legal profession is one of the professions at the forefront where they really are embracing and using generative systems. Again, there is very little testing, there is very little vetting of how the models perform. As a result, in the US, people have been barred from practicing due to hallucinatory answers. So as you can see here from this paper, again, it came out very recently, about a couple of months ago, a lot of the bold claims are not accompanied by empirical evidence. And this is exactly what this group of auditors did. They examined how 4 of the top state-of-the-art models used in the legal space perform: Lexis, Westlaw, Practice Law, and GPT-4. And as you can see here, these models produced incomplete answers, especially as you can see in Practice Law, and they were also full of statements. They were full of answers that just simply don't exist, that were hallucinated by these systems. And election information is another area where we have empirical evidence, and this research came out at the beginning of the year, where they tested again 5 of the top state-of-the-art models from Cloud, Gemini, GPT-4, Llama 2, and Mixtral. As you can see here, especially Gemini performed really bad, with 65% of the answers being inaccurate compared to the ground truths on US election information. And as you can see, this is the total result, where for all models, over 50% of the answer they produced on US election information was simply inaccurate. So we've heard at the beginning from the godfathers of AI, at least some of them, not everybody believes, this existential risk, this kind of sci-fi hypothetical concern that doesn't really have any scientific basis. But as some of them, as have outlined at the beginning of this talk, the push is, the worry is around how these systems are going to take over the world and we are all going to die and so on. But what we should be really worrying, what these systems are doing gradually and slowly, and maybe perhaps without immediate attention to most of us, is They can generate any information. They can generate any voice cloning, image, text that actually feels like, that seems like it came from a human being. And one of the things that Google is introducing in their new adventure in the phone manufacturing space is it's called Reimagine, or the Magic 9, the Pixels 9's Magic Editor, where you can take any image and you can add anything on that image, or you can remove something on that image. So you can, as you can see here, side by side, the original images in the AI or the AI edited images using Pixel 9 or Reimagine. So what this does is make it really difficult to differentiate between
We're
what
entering
is
an era in which our enemies can make it look like anyone is saying anything at any point in time, even if they would never.
Okay, we'll skip this. I apologize again. But that was a voice cloning of Barack Obama. He actually never said any of those. This is just to illustrate that how these kind of deepfakes are really infiltrating the World Wide Web. And you've probably seen, for example, Trump tweeting that the Swifties have endorsed him for the upcoming US election, and that was generated using, again, generative systems. So the harm that generative systems are causing is not only to society, to democratic systems. There is also a disproportionate impact to marginalized groups, especially in those women in the entertainment industry. For example, there has been 550% rise in the total number of deepfake videos from 2019 to 2023. And out of all the deepfakes that are being generated and that exist online, 98% of all those deepfakes are deepfakes of pornographic videos. And out of all those deepfakes, out of all those 98% deepfakes, 99% of them are targeting individuals that are women. I'll leave the facts there, but you can see how these generative systems are actually destroying lives without. So it's very common to see these days generated images that make people feel good being circulated around, especially on Facebook. You see, generated images of a non-existent woman celebrating her 100-year-old, and so on. And the last picture, the caption says, "I made this with my own hands, but no one appreciates this." And the irony is that, the generated image actually has 3 hands. So these are silly things that we can look at, we can laugh about, and move on. But again, these kind of systems do have, a much more insidious downstream impact. For example, we can no longer we use the Ngram. The Ngram is a system that documents and rates books. But now, because the various books that are written or that are generated using generative systems are entering into the book list, and it's becoming, as I say, difficult to differentiate them. And companies such as Google are practically refusing to exclude these kind of books. So systems like the Ngram no longer work. And similar to the word frequency, again, this is a system that is used to track the frequency, the word frequency used by human beings. But now, because a lot of text from generative systems is entering the World Wide Web, this system no longer works. And we also see AI-generated images being listed at the top in the arts category as Google serves these images as some of the top results. So as I said, some of these have really dire implications for society as a whole, but also for individuals and groups. But it also has implications for the AI field itself, because we have the AI revolution not because of we have a new technique or because we have new theories. We've had these, since the 1960s, 70s, and 80s. What really made the AI revolution was the World Wide Web, because we can fetch so much data from that pool to train these systems. And AI systems, again, exist and have become revolutionary because of the availability of massive amounts of training data. It's training data that are the backbone of AI systems. And now that the World Wide Web, where we fetch a lot of the data, is becoming poisoned by generated images, text, voice, and video, and so on, it's becoming difficult to actually build accurate models. This is known as, this has been termed as model collapse. So the more generated or synthetic data enters your training pool, the more your model forgets the underlying distribution, or rather the ground truths of a certain phenomena that you are trying to model. So as you can see in the example here, with the first input seems very sensible, realistic, practical. As you go through the iterations, the more synthetic data is in the training pool, the more the model produces just unhelpful gibberish. And this might actually be one of the problems that will bring generative systems to a halt, as well as environmental impacts. Again, we've seen that AI geniuses talk about AI as if it's fully autonomous, entirely forgetting the entire ecosystem that sustains AI systems. And one of the most urgent questions over the past 2 years, since since generative systems became mainstream, is the amount of energy required to train and to sustain these systems. As you can see here from a quote from Goldman Sachs, in the UK alone, AI is expected to suck up to 500% more energy over the next decade. And they call this the kind of electricity growth that hasn't been seen in generations. In countries such as Ireland, the total amount of energy required for data centers is more than the total amount of energy that sustains households. And this is before we get into, actually this came out just a couple of weeks ago, where a lot of what we know about energy consumption of generative systems is actually based on lies. These big corporations not reporting energy use appropriately. So people estimate at least 662% higher than we actually know, and this is underestimating it. And this is more particularly with generative AI. So if you, for example, enter a query, for example, how much coffee should I drink per day, and the same query using generative systems, you would use 10 times more energy to receive an answer from, say, a traditional Google search versus generative systems. And this is before we even get into the huge amounts of gallons of water that's required to cool data centers. So again, as I said earlier, a lot of what we hear about AI is overblown and overhyped. Sometimes what passes as AI is actually, people in developing countries doing the dirty work of AI itself. So in this drive-through, Del Taco had a drive-through where AI would take your orders, But then it was found that it was actually not AI, it was off-site workers that are actually doing taking the order. And similar with Amazon, they had a system called Just Walk Out. The idea is you can just collect your items from the supermarket and just walk out, and the AI will magically know what you have taken and take credit from your credit card accordingly. But again, that magic AI turned out to be over 1,000 real people in India looking at screaming on the camera feeds and doing the documenting for itself. So these are some of the labors that AI systems inherently lean on. Data labeling is another area where there is massive labor exploitation. One of the breaking news that came out a couple of years ago was that companies like OpenAI were using, data workers from countries such as Kenya for very little amount of payment. I think for about under $2, under $2 per day, to do the actual dirty work of, looking through toxic content and excluding that, both from the training data and from the queries. So not all AI is bad, obviously. I want to conclude with, things such as, weather prediction. This is where AI can be useful, because this kind of phenomena is something that lends itself for AI modeling, because it's possible to gather through various sensors accurate data, and phenomena such as weather forecasting themselves are, at least for a short term, for the next 2 or 3 hours, are something you can actually do with high accuracy. Same goes for things such as soil health monitoring. Wherever there is very little, societal interaction or behavior monitoring or behavior prediction, the more we veer away from the society, from social phenomena, the higher accuracy the models tend to have, and the less ethical issues that arise with them. So these are some of the examples. Board game simulation, again, this is an area companies such as DeepMind have really excelled. Gameplay, board games are, things that tend to lend themselves for general principles that you can simulate, that you can build models on. And another one is carbon emission tracking. Actually, we need a lot more of this. We don't have enough research. We don't have enough data. And companies that are doing most emission intentionally obscure this data, or they use, proprietary rights and other excuses to not, be transparent about their energy use. So I'll stop at that. I'm sure most of you are using AI systems. You probably use Copilot or ChatGPT to aid your work. My conclusion, my advice is that know that these systems hallucinate, and hallucination is not just a bug, it's their future, because they are non-deterministic systems by nature. That means, hallucination is inherent. So some of the issues I have pointed out for probably, will be fixed or have already been fixed, but that doesn't mean others don't spring. So it's like playing whack-a-mole. When you solve one problem, another one will pop out. So make sure that you check and double-check your output before you use it, especially for high-stake tasks. And for those that are developing generative systems, again, a lot of the issues that I pointed out are not just some annoying obstacles, but again, these are fundamental issues that need to be addressed. So dedicate enough resources, especially towards doing evaluation and audit work. Again, because as I said, a lot of what we hear and the models that we are, the model performance itself, really, there is a massive discrepancy. So we need a lot more work around that. And yeah, I'll stop there and I'll take any questions. I apologize for the technical issues along the way. Thank you.
We thank you, Abeba. Great presentation. Do we have any questions? So I guess they can find you online?
Yeah, sure.
Awesome. So thank you.
There's a question over there.
Wait. Hello, hello.
Hey.
First of all, thank you very much for your presentation. I believe that was super interesting. But it generated me one question. Which are the top categories that AI tools provide inaccurate answers or inaccurate data? From your experience, or if you know this information.
Sorry, could you repeat that, please?
Which are the top categories that AI tools provide inaccurate data?
Yeah. Which are?
Yes.
I don't think there is any research on that, but I can give you my hunch. Inaccurate data, I mean, they provide inaccurate data, whatever your query. But if you are writing a novel, for example, accuracy doesn't really matter. So, because you are not fact-checking anything. So, however, if you are, for example, a historian, facts really matter. So, hallucinations and inaccuracy has a really dire downstream consequence. So, I'm not sure which area they produce the highest inaccuracy, and I don't know if there is any research on that, but I can show you, I can tell you that, the more you veer towards, domains that are fact-based, the higher the risk and the higher the danger of using generative systems.
Okay, clear. Thank you very much.
No problem. There is one more there.
Thanks for the presentation. Really enjoyed it. One other claim is that these systems, the LLMs, can summarize text or analyze data. Any research of how good they are really at doing these things?
I actually had a slide on summarization, text summarization, and code generation, and I removed it because I thought it would take up so much time. So summarizations also, they are really bad. They produce, again, incomplete answers, and they also omit important facts. So also for summarization, there is at least a few, rigorous audits that have looked at, state-of-the-art top generative models, and the conclusion is that I think over 50% of the time it's either text that doesn't exist, or or they contain omission of important content.
By the way, just as a data point, in YouTube, if you search, there are people who are actually testing these systems for their ability to code. And they also produce really weird code and do things that are extremely extraneous. And so even the claim that they can code is a bit iffy and not really well proven.
Yeah. Also, code generation is another area where we have, rigorous empirical evidence. Systems like Copilot, they either produce code that is not compilable or code that has, some sort of errors or some kind of problems along the way.
Thank you.
I have heard actually that there are some techniques where you can use to reduce the hallucinations. For example, using capital letters or using some kind of urgency. I need this one really, really now. Does it actually help, or?
For coding, for code generation?
For everything. Like, does it help to reduce the hallucinations?
I don't know. I don't know. But I mean, as I said, these systems are non-deterministic. So you can have the exact same query written in exact script, and they will give you like slightly different answers.
Thank you very much, and thanks for the presentation.
Thank you so much for that.